Saturn is transiting in Capricorn sign from 12th July 2022 to 17th January 2023. In this video, you will know the transit results of Saturn in Capricorn sign for all ascendants. Welcome to my channel Solar Astro. For Aries ascendant, Saturn is 10th and 11th lord. Saturn is transiting in 10th house in its own sign Capricorn. So this is favorable transit for career and professional matters. Saturn is malefic planet for Aries ascendants, whereas Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its third aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, Jupiter and Ketu become weak in this transit period. There will be some obstacles in foreign travels and investments. There will be strain in relationship matters also in this transit period. Saturn also aspecting 4th house. Therefore, there will be lack of home comforts and tensions at home in this transit period. For Taurus ascendants, Saturn is Yogakaraka planet. Saturn is 9th and 10th lord, transiting over 9th house in its own sign Capricorn. So luck favors Taurus ascendants in this transit period. This transit is also favorable for long distance travels or visiting pilgrimages. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets for Taurus ascendants. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its third aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn is controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. So this is highly favorable period for Taurus ascendants. There will be overall gains and their desires get fulfilled in this transit period. Health also remains good for Taurus ascendants and it is also favorable for job related matters and daily routine. Saturn is also aspecting third house, therefore their efforts become fruitful and it is also favorable transit for paperwork or documentation. For Gemini ascendants, Saturn is 8th and 9th lord, transiting over 8th house in its own sign Capricorn. Saturn is benefic planet for Gemini ascendants. Therefore, it gives good results related to 8th house matters. There will be gain in inheritance and also you may get unearned money in this transit period. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets for Gemini ascendants. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its third aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn being benefic planet, controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. Therefore, this is highly favorable transit for Gemini ascendants. This is favorable transit related to career and professional matters and it is also favorable transit related to 5th house matters. They may get promotion in job and this transit is good for learning and love. Saturn is also aspecting 2nd house, so financially also this is favorable transit. There will be harmony in family matters also. For Cancer ascendants, Saturn is 7th and 8th lord, transiting over 7th house in its own sign Capricorn. This transit gives favorable results related to relationship matters and business. For unmarried people, this is favorable transit to get married. But Saturn is malefic planet for Cancer ascendants. Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets for Cancer ascendants. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its third aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, Jupiter and Ketu become weak. Therefore, this is not so favorable transit related to 9th house matters and 4th house matters. Father's health may not be good. This transit is not favorable for long distance travels or visiting pilgrimages and there will be discomfort at home. Saturn is also aspecting 1st house. Therefore, it may also affect health in this transit period. For Leo ascendants, Saturn is 6th and 7th lord, transiting over 6th house in its own sign Capricorn. This transit is favorable for job related matters and daily routine. This transit is also favorable to remain disease free. Saturn is malefic planet for Leo ascendants. Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its third aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, two benefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu, become weak in this transit period. So this transit is not favorable for getting unearned money or gain in inheritance and this is also not favorable related to third house matters. Your efforts may not be fruitful. Saturn is also aspecting 12th house. Therefore, this is also not favorable transit for foreign travels or making investments. For Virgo ascendants, Saturn is 5th and 6th lord, transiting over 5th house in its own sign Capricorn. This is favorable transit related to 5th house matters. Virgo ascendants may get promotion in this transit period. This transit is highly favorable for love and learning. Saturn is benefic planet for Virgo ascendants. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn is controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. Therefore, this is highly favorable transit for Virgo ascendants. This is favorable transit for getting married or starting new business, and this is also favorable transit related to family and finances. Saturn is also aspecting 11th house. Therefore, there will be gains and all desires get fulfilled for Virgo ascendants in this transit period. For Libra ascendants, Saturn is Yogakaraka planet. Saturn is 4th and 5th lord, transiting over 4th house in its own sign Capricorn. This is highly favorable transit. This transit is favorable for home comforts and also purchasing properties. This is also favorable transit for purchasing vehicles. Saturn is benefic planet. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn is controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. This is also favorable transit related to job and daily routine, and health also improves for Libra ascendants in this transit period. Saturn is also aspecting 10th house. Therefore, this is also favorable transit for career and professional matters. For Scorpio ascendants, Saturn is 3rd and 4th lord, transiting over 3rd house in its own sign Capricorn. This is favorable transit related to 3rd house matters. Your efforts become fruitful, and this is also favorable transit to develop new skills. Saturn is malefic planet. Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, Jupiter and Ketu become weak. There will be delay in getting promotion, and there may be some obstacles in love and learning matters for Scorpio ascendants. This is also not so favorable transit for foreign travels or making investments. Saturn also aspecting 9th house. Therefore, this is also not favorable transit for long distance travels or visiting pilgrimages. For Sagittarius ascendants, Saturn is 2nd and 3rd lord, transiting over 2nd house in its own sign Capricorn. This is favorable transit related to 2nd house matters. Financially, this is a favorable transit. There will be harmony in family also. But Saturn is malefic planet for Sagittarius ascendants. Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, Jupiter and Ketu become weak. So, this transit is not so favorable for purchasing properties. There will be delays and lack of peace at home. And this transit is also not so favorable for getting gains and desire fulfillments. Saturn is also aspecting 8th house. Therefore, this is not favorable transit for 8th house related matters. There may be delay in getting inheritance or gain in unearned money. For Capricorn ascendants, Saturn is 1st and 2nd lord, transiting over 1st house in its own sign Capricorn. Health will be very good for Capricorn ascendants in this transit period. Saturn is benefic planet. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn is controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. This is highly favorable transit for Capricorn ascendants. Your efforts become fruitful, and this is favorable transit for documentation or paperwork. This is also favorable transit related to career and professional matters. Saturn is also aspecting 7th house. Therefore, this is also favorable transit for relationship matters and business. This is favorable transit for unmarried people to get married and also to start new business. For Aquarius ascendants, Saturn is 1st and 12th lord, transiting over 12th house in its own sign Capricorn. This is favorable transit for foreign travels or making investments. Saturn is benefic planet for Aquarius ascendants. Jupiter and Ketu are malefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Saturn is controlling two malefic planets, Jupiter and Ketu. So financially this is going to be favorable transit. There will be peace and harmony in family matters, and this is also favorable transit related to 9th house matters. Luck, favors, and this is favorable transit for visiting pilgrimages. Saturn is also aspecting 6th house, therefore this is also favorable transit in job related matters and daily routine. For Pisces ascendants, Saturn is 11th and 12th lord transiting over 11th house in its own sign Capricorn. This is favorable transit related to 11th house matters. Their desires get fulfilled and there will be overall gain in this transit period. But Saturn is malefic planet. Jupiter and Ketu are benefic planets. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter by its 3rd aspect and Ketu by its 10th aspect. Therefore, Jupiter and Ketu become weak. There may be some health issues for Pisces ascendants in this transit period, and this is also not so favorable for getting inheritance or gain in unearned money. Saturn is also aspecting 5th house, therefore this is also not so favorable transit related to 5th house matters. This is not favorable transit for love and learning. Subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon to receive latest updates. For complete horoscope reading, you can contact me at solarastro9@gmail.com.